Caitlin, The Long Goodbye. Tell us about the film and the music for which you are a nominee.
The Long Goodbye is a documentary that I wrote the music for. It's a documentary directed by Kay Harrison. It's her second documentary, a beautiful documentary about Alzheimer's and the effects of Alzheimer's on 3 different families. And it's generally about, it's generally a love story about 3 different families and how you still love someone throughout watching them slowly die, I guess. But yeah, Alzheimer's and watching them slip away slowly.
So how did you approach the music, and what was the discussion you had with her about the kind of music that should be in it?
The way I approached the music was that she wanted something that was what she called sparkles of gold, which I thought, oh, how do I turn that into music? Sparkles of gold? And basically, the film worked beautifully on its own without music. I think it could have stood up completely without music at all. So it needed very small amounts of music and the smallest touches. And so I guess what we thought about was how can we make music out of the smallest amount of things possible, which was quite a challenge in itself.
How did you do that?
The way I did that was I used a lot of electronic sounds and I reversed them and fed them back into themselves, and I was kind of playing with the idea of retrograde and retrograde inversion, which is a melody played forwards and a melody played backwards and a melody inverted, and then feeding it back into itself, if this makes sense to you at all. It kind of created these beautiful interlocking melodies. So I used that as a style to sort of harp back into when people have Alzheimer's, they sort of go back in time. So the idea was sort of going back in time, and yeah, and very small amounts of it, very light, very small sounds, coloristic instruments, harps, pianos, and a single viola.
It's a challenge, but it is a rewarding challenge. I mean, when you play it now and you see the film and you hear the music, what's your response to it?
It's one of those films, it is such a touching love story that it makes you cry no matter what you do. And I think there wasn't a day that went by on The Long Goodbye that I didn't cry doing the music for the film, which was, I mean, as a composer, you do have to go on the emotional journey of the characters. You do have to support their emotional journey. And for me, the only way I can really truly feel like I've succeeded with the music is to make sure I've expressed their emotional journey, or not, but in some sort of intentional way. So I guess, yeah.
You've done the music, you've composed the music for another documentary called The Bomb Harvest, which is a wonderful Australian documentary which doesn't appear to have any uplifting potential, but actually does. And you've also done a couple of feature films, most recently being for the director, Louise Olsen, who did All My Friends Are Leaving Brisbane. Can you talk to us a little bit about the difference between writing music, composing music for a documentary and for a feature film?
Composing music for a documentary and a feature film, it's a great question. People like to think that there are differences, but I would have to say at the end of the day, all the tricks are the same. Essentially, you do need to serve the story, which is, for me, the most important #1 rule of composing music for the screen. And there's going to be a story in a documentary and in a feature film, a drama, non-fiction, if you like. So, fiction, if you like. So, yeah, I think that the tricks are basically the same. The only differences is, in a feature film, the characters are not real, so you don't have to respect them so much, I guess, at the end of the day. In a documentary, the characters are real. These people are going to see themselves on screen. You don't want to damage their reputation too severely unless they've signed away that you can do it.
What about the way that you work with the directors and some of the challenges that you face in translating their wishes to screen? Like you mentioned before about sparkles of gold. What are some of the other examples that you can think of?
Every director is different, so working with directors and figuring out what kind of music they want or what kind of music we want together as a team is always a challenge. And even if I've worked with a director before, if it's a new film, it's a new story, there's a new set of rules, there's a new function for the music at the end of the day. There needs to be a different outcome at the end of the day. So I have to approach every film in some ways like I've never done it before, because I haven't. And for me, it's about working with like-minded directors. I find if myself and the director are generally compatible, friendship-wise and artistically wise and aesthetically, we will have a much better time of it. But it's certainly about communicating, and it's certainly about trusting each other's instincts and ideas.
Do you think screen music is crucial to every film?
No, not at all. I mean, I don't think screen music is crucial to every film. As I said before, I think The Long Goodbye actually could have worked really well without music. The first time I watched it was without music, and I still cried. But the director loves the music that I put in there, and I think I've heard Hans Zimmer say, "If the director's happy, I'm happy," which is one of my favourite quotes. Yeah, so no, I don't think every film needs music. I think The Wire, that TV show, doesn't have music in it. And a film, actually, if you can get a film to work without music, putting the music in will even work even better.
So, is there you're not a zealot as far as screen music is concerned?
What do you mean by that?
Well, you're not an extremist as far as every film must have screen music.
Well, I do have a funny little thing. I don't know if I should share it with you, Andrew. The thing about me and screen music is, even though I don't think every film needs music, I do think every film needs accordion. That's my own little joke that goes into every film.
Everything, somewhere.
Somewhere, there's a little squeeze of accordion.
Can you say why?
Yeah, I love the accordion. I play accordion, I love it. It's a delightful instrument. It's full of colour, it's full of emotion, it has full of breath. It's a very expressive instrument.
It can do everything, can't it?
It is.
Emotionally.
It can do everything.
You studied ethnomusicology, which I find difficult to pronounce, never mind to get my head around. I suppose it's just ethnic music?
The study of ethnomusicology is a very broad term. It was around in the early 90s when I did my music degree at Sydney Uni, and it's generally the study of music from different cultures. In my case, I mainly studied Indonesian gamelan music and spent most of my time looking into how that was structured and how it sort of reflects the culture and how it's formed, and playing it and observing it and transcribing it and that sort of stuff.
Does it, and if it does, how does it, that study, that knowledge, influence your compositions?
I think ethnomusicology has influenced my music in this way, that I write from instinct, and if I don't write from instinct, it's not coming from an honest place, and then I won't get away with it. It's not honest. You can always hear if something's not an honest piece of art. And for me, I just love music from different cultures. I love Indonesian gamelan, I love European music, I love klezmer music, I love accordions, I love music from different cultures. So I've studied it enough for it to become sort of part of who I am, of the way I think musically. And then so I guess it directly and indirectly influences it coming from somewhere in my subconscious, if you like. I'm not sure if that's too ethereal, but...
Is there anything in your life other than music that you're interested in? Hobbies or passions?
Yep.
Other than music?
So other than music, what do I love? I love cooking. I love it a lot. I'll cook whenever I'm not writing, and I'll cook some more. I read cookbooks at night before I go to bed, and I read them first thing in the morning. And I also love folding origami, though I haven't had the time to do it for a while.
Do you ever do all three simultaneously, music, cooking, origami?
I did go on Ready Steady Cook once, but I didn't get to fold origami, and Peter Everett did ask me to bring the accordion in, but I thought that would be a little bit dangerous around the chefs in the kitchen.
what started you in music?
What started me in music? When I was little, we had a piano and my brother was learning piano, and he used to play a very basic version of the Moonlight Sonata on the piano, and I very much enjoyed listening to him play that, and I used to sit at the top octave of the piano try and copy what he was doing. And I begged many years to learn the piano off my parents, and they would take me every year to the piano teacher that lived up the road and round the corner, and she would look at the size of my hands and she would say, "Nope, you're not big enough to learn yet, Caitlin. Nope, you're not big enough to learn yet, Caitlin." So eventually I was 8 or 9, which would be very late in today's terms, but back then you kind of didn't start so early, and I was allowed to start piano.
And you took to it instantly?
Definitely. Practiced it all the time. Loved it. Yep.
What are some of the things that you are hoping to get to do, or people that you hope to get to work with in screen music
What would I hope to do in screen composition?
that you haven't yet done?
That I haven't yet done. Well, I'm sure there's many things I haven't yet done. Every film is a new thing. I guess what I'd hope to do in screen composition is just to keep working and keep enjoying it. When I'm in it and I'm doing it and I'm writing the music and I have a good relationship with the director, it's completely fulfilling for me, so I would just hope to keep doing it. And obviously earn enough money that I could keep doing it.
How do you work? What's the sort of work methodology that you use?
My process for writing music for screen is, there is a general process which is, I think, what everyone else follows, which is in terms of having a brief with the director, having a spotting session, writing up sketches, having the director sign off on the sketches or not, working to a mostly locked cut during this time, recording the music, mixing the music, it going into the final mix. That's your sort of general overall physical process, I guess, if you like. If you're looking further into that, my process is certainly also to, after the briefing session with the director, one of the important things for me is to go home and sit at the piano for a few days with some manuscript and write up thematic ideas. They might be harmonic ideas, they might be melodic ideas, but it's certainly to write up thematic ideas before I go anywhere near the computer. They become jigsaw pieces for the rest of the film, if you like.
Is there anything that you do if you ever get blocked, if you ever get stuck? Is there a trick you use to?
If I get blocked or stuck, sometimes I turn the computer off and go up the road and do the grocery shopping. And somehow that gets me back into the studio. I do have a family, so there are other chores that need to be done. So if I do get blocked or stuck, I just choose a different chore.
And do you find that there is a cut-off, that you can cut off at the end of your work day?
No, I don't think I can cut off from writing this music at the end of the work day. I think for me, and I'm sure it's different for everybody, but for me, because of the way that I work instinctually and I work from the gut, I write the music and it just starts swimming around in my head. And I've always said, I know I'm onto a good thing if I'm humming the themes in my head at night time when I'm in bed. So I certainly can't turn off until I'm actually humming them all the time in my head, and then mulling around and turning into different things and becoming different manifestations of the one idea, which, very quickly go into the film.
How do you now, as opposed to perhaps when you started, deal with the situation where perhaps your first offering to a director is met with rejection?
I went to AFTRS and I did the screen composition degree at AFTRS with Martin Armiger, and Martin Armiger was very good at getting me to get over that hump, to get over myself in that one. And certainly he gave me a lot of critical feedback, which was, at the end of the day, helped me create coping mechanisms with people giving me feedback on my music that's not right for the film. Generally, my idea about that now is if a director doesn't like my music, it's not because the music's not good, it's just that it doesn't fit the film. And so I just got to find something that fits the film, that's all it is.
And you're good to work with, do you think? Has anybody?
Yes.
Let me put it another way. Are you easy to work with, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I would say I'm easy to work with. I'm fairly easygoing. I have a lot of joy in this industry, so I do like to think I do bring joy to the process and fun, and people always like that. People always come back.
You say you have children.
One child.
One child? Boy, girl?
A boy.
Okay, you have a boy. What, if any, hopes do you have for him musically?
My son. Well, my son says, "Mummy, I hate music." Because it's the thing that takes me away from him, right? But look, for him, my only hopes is that he's happy and healthy in life, and that he has a fun, happy, fulfilled life. And he leads certainly a charmed life right now of growing up in Australia, you know, having two good parents who love him dearly. We don't need for things, you know. He's a very lucky boy. Yeah.
In feature films, you worked with Louise Alston on her first film, All My Friends Are Leaving Brisbane, and you've just done, or are working on this, on her second, Jucy. Tell us about both films, the differences, and about working with Louise.
Okay, so working on All My Friends Are Leaving Brisbane, that was the first film I did with Louise Alston. So we certainly had to negotiate our composer-director relationship. One thing that's sort of delightful and also slightly confusing about Louise, which ends up being charming, is that the way she directed the film to me was she often didn't use words. She said, "This bit's got to feel like this," or "This bit's like this," you know? And so it was really hard to translate that into music. So we went through a few, you know, rewrites, I guess, for All My Friends Are Leaving Brisbane till I got it right, till I understood her language. When I got onto Jucy, her second feature film, which is definitely smothered in that beautiful Louise Alston Australian colourful style, it's even more colourful than All My Friends Are Leaving Brisbane, I understood her language this time. We got along like a house on fire. The music came out right straight away. It's a very charming piece. It's, yeah, so it was good. And certainly working with the director a second time, you have a language already, which makes it easier.
Anything unusual in the way that you wrote, or any components of the score for Jucy?
Jucy is entirely electronic, except for accordion. And yeah, the idea for Jucy was to certainly make it nearly like a little Casio player. So I made these beats that sounded like they came from an old Casio, and used a lot of retro sounds, but electronic ones, and worked with them to make them interesting and give it that sort of cute, slightly synthy, poppy sort of feel about it, plus accordion.
And the other project you're working on recently is My America,
yes, by
Hungarian filmmaker Peter Hegedűs.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, it sounds interesting.
My America is a very interesting film. It's a feature documentary intended for cinema release. Peter Hegedűs is a Hungarian who came to Australia when he was 14. He always had a dream of going to America. He'd grown up on American movies, particularly Arnold Schwarzenegger. So his documentary is about his search for his American dream. And one thing that he does during his search for his American dream is he travels all around the world with a little camera booth, and he films just the general public in Kenya, China, Russia, Hungary, America, Australia, all over the world, recording messages for Obama, Barack Obama. And interestingly enough, some people are like, "Who's Obama?" And other people are like, "Down with America." And so there's a lot of interesting things that people say about world peace, and it's quite revealing. And what ends up being revealed in the film is what his American dream really ends up being, and is there an American dream at all?
So how do you put music to that, and what was it that he wanted?
A lot of the story is told through animations, beautiful animations in fact. So interestingly enough, it required quite over-the-top Hollywood music to support these animations, particularly because he's talking about his American dream a lot, and there's a lot of reference to monsters, and these animations, the story is told through monsters and animated monsters, American monster killing, Iran monster, world blowing up, that sort of stuff. So I did big fat Hollywood action music.
Sitting there at your keyboard.
At my keyboard. And we've just finished recording it. We're just doing the music mix now. We had to get very clever because at the end of the day it was a documentary, not a huge, big, large budget feature film. So the question was, how do you do big, fat Hollywood music with a small budget? So what I did was I used fake strings and doubled all the strings and all the brass with one player of reel on each one. So we're in the midst of mixing that together and trying to make it sound like a bigger ensemble than it is.
So maybe an American producer or director will hear this and say, this is the girl for me.
Yes. Next time I will say, we need more than one player on each part because it's a very hard job.
But you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really love writing this music. It was good to be sort of outside my regular zone of understated documentary music. It was nice to get overstated for a change.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Caitlin.